including emails and text messages, put into the public domain. It's a procedure known as a humble address to ask the Queen to get her to order the government to release the files. And you may remember that Labour did this before on the 58 Brexit economic assessments that ministers had previously fought to keep private. That may well go to a division over the course of the next hour. If it does, we'll go straight across to the House of Commons. Here in Brussels, the European Parliament's been in session. I met Mr Juncker at 1 o'clock today, who quite bizarrely high-fived me for reasons I still haven't quite yet worked out. And the debate going on here today has been about the EU budget, because you see, the second biggest contributor to the European Union, even though we've promised to pay quite a lot of money to go, but the second biggest contributor is leaving. So they're discussing what to do with their next 7-year budget plan after we've left. And amazingly, the budget's not going down. It's actually going up, and for that 7-year period, it'll be about €1.25 trillion. That's right, trillion euros, prompting the Dutch and Danish prime ministers to say, this looks like a budget for a European Union of 28, not a European Union of 27. Expect more big rows in European politics over money, particularly with the Brits going. And the other big event, of course, today has been the Brexit War Cabinet, as it's known, has been meeting in an attempt to reach some kind of deal on whether the UK should leave the customs union clean or enter into this customs partnership concept. Now, this is an idea that's come, I think, really from the chief negotiator, Ollie Robbins. We, in effect, would measure all the goods that came in to the UK's borders, and then through a smart tracking system we'd work out whether they transshipped to other European Union member countries or stayed within the United Kingdom. We in effect would become a tax collector for the rest of the EU. Difficult to see really how we've left the customs union if we go for that deal. That has led to Jacob Rees-Mogg, who I think has been remarkably loyal and remarkably quiet over the course of the last few months. But he, of course, leads the European Research Group, and 60 MPs have signed a motion saying, we have to drop any concept of a customs partnership with the European Union. And whilst he hasn't directly threatened the Prime Minister, there are many in the group making it clear they would not vote for this new idea of a customs partnership. So Theresa May in some difficulty over this. One of the main reasons to be against this customs partnership is we're told it would take up to 5 years to implement, and hey, haven't we spent enough time? But imagine yourself today around that Brexit War Cabinet table. What would you have said to Mrs May if you would have encouraged her to rethink her stance on the customs union? Maybe this customs partnership is the way to go. Then call me on 0345 6060 973. Maybe you'd have said, no, stick to what you said all the way through. We're leaving the customs union. We'll sort the Irish border out between ourselves. Text to 84850. Or maybe you'd have said, it's nearly 2 years, Prime Minister, since we voted to leave. We don't appear to have moved very far forward, in which case, tweet using the hashtag Farage and LBC at LBC. Watch us on Facebook. Comment there too. I'm live from the European Parliament in Brussels. All I can say, if I'd been sitting there, I would have said, it is nearly 2 years since we voted to leave the European Union. And here we are today discussing what relationship or not we want with the customs union. And I would have said, why, Prime Minister? Do you stand up at Lancaster House and elsewhere, make these big promises, repeat them in your manifesto, and then, when push comes to shove, keep making a whole series of concessions? Over-promising and under-delivering never puts any leader in a good position. And I have to say, my own feeling, there is now, I think, a slight air of crisis beginning to engulf this government. But hey, what matters is what you think. What matters is what David in Hackney thinks, a first-time caller to this show. Good evening, David. Hello. Right, no, we're struggling a bit with David from Hackney. First-time caller, maybe he's got cold feet. I doubt it. Very few people do. They find once they get going, it isn't too difficult. But that's what I'd have said. 2 years, and we appear to be almost no further forward. We've agreed to pay money. We've agreed to continue open borders for some considerable period of time. We've agreed to continued oversight from the European Court of Justice, and yet, we really don't seem to have worked out what our position is on the customs union. I find the whole thing really astonishing, and frankly, it shows a lack of leadership. Let's go, we've lost him, let's go to Yarmouth and speak to Mark. Good evening, Mark.
Hello, Nigel. I have spoken to you before.
Welcome back.
Thank you for taking my call. If I was in Theresa May's Brexit war cabinet, whatever you want to call it, I would have told her by now that she needs, you either get out of this altogether, the EU, or we walk. And she's made a mockery of it, Nigel. And I don't know, I've been following it now closely for quite some time. It's gone too far, and there's one idea after another. Is going backwards and forwards. Do we go here? Do we stay here? Do we go in for this? We've got the House of Lords who are unelected.
Yep.
Going against the will of the people. We've had numerous High Court cases against it. We've had people, if you watch any of the major news channels, all you're getting on there is Remainers. You're hardly getting any Brexit. I mean,
Can you imagine, Mark? Had the result been 52-48 the other way, we wouldn't be seeing any of this, would we?
No, of course not. It would be, we'd have probably been drawing up plans now to join the Euro. I said to people that I know that had we had lost, had we not come out and had we gone in, it would have been, I suppose, it would have been a decision, we would have had to accept. And we would have just said to them, well, we better make the best of it then, get inside Europe, fight our corner. If we are going to join the Euro, then we're going to have to fight our corner and, make the best of it, Nigel. But because it's gone the other way, they seem.
And we're not making the best of it, Mark. We're not making the best of it. And there's an air of negativity about everything, isn't there?
Well, of course there is, because this is huge, you see, and they can't handle this decision, and they've kind of got together like spoilt children and thrown the dummies out the pram and basically...
Mark, just to finish, I've got a load of callers want to come on this, but this is your platform. Message to Mrs May from Mark in Yarmouth.
Well, you either accept the will of the British people, otherwise resign now and go.
OK, that couldn't be clearer. Mark, I thank you. Breaking news. US media reports data firm Cambridge Analytica is closing its operations following the Facebook data scandal. Wow. Just shows you, in the modern world, companies, they can be big companies with big income, and they can just lose their reputations and disappear like that. Cambridge Analytica, according to US media reports, has gone. Let's go back to David in Hackney, our new caller, who we struggled with a bit earlier on. David, are you there?
Yes, I'm there.
Hi there.
Thank you, Nigel.
Good, very good. Thank you. Well, good to have you on now. Put yourself in that position. You're round that Brexit war cabinet table. You've got Jacob Rees-Mogg on the one hand, who is saying, unless you leave that customs union, you could be in big trouble with the 60 of us. You've got the House of Lords, who've just inflicted their 10th defeat on the other side of the argument. What would you have said, David, in the midst of this crisis?
Well, the House of Lords, obviously, a load of old men, they should actually be abolished, is the first thing to say. Theresa May has had us she's had us in limbo for 2 years. We're in some kind of trance. She's got to stop this, Nigel. She's got to get on with it. And, I can't bear it. I actually feel quite depressed about the state of in limbo that we're just stuck in. And when I was walking through London from the city this afternoon, there's a lot of protesters there. It's encouraging people to think they can go backwards.
Do you think, David, do you feel that this is due to a lack of leadership?
Well, Exactly, yeah. I mean, we need strong leaders. I mean, you're very clear. She's not clear. She just says, sound bites like strong and stable. I mean, I'm fed up with it, really. I mean, these protesters...
Well, David, I tell you what, though. But I tell you what, though, when she made the Lancaster House speech, back in January 17, and I praised her to the rafters on this programme, and indeed, when she spoke in the general election, I mean, there are times when she says, we will be doing X, Y, and Z, and it sounds terrific, and I feel a bit uplifted, and then when it comes to delivery, she starts to backtrack on it all.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't want to agree with Nick Clegg, but on this point, if it sounds too good to be true, it might be. But these bloody protesters, sorry, I swore, but these protesters, they were singing this song in limbo, and they were telling us they're going to stop Brexit with a song called In Limbo. Wow. I mean, I know. David, I've got to let you go. We're going live across to the House of Commons to Theo Ashwood.
Mr. Simon Hall. Thank you. I know we lost it. Come back.
Right, I tell you what, we're going to find out. They're dividing now in the Commons. We're going to go to the break. When we come back, hopefully we will know whether the government suffered yet another loss. They're not having a great week. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:15.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast every weekday morning from 7, only on LBC.
What's being billed as a showdown refer to a meeting taking place in Downing Street later today. David Lidington, who served as Europe Minister under David Cameron's Minister for the Cabinet Office, effectively Deputy Prime Minister.
Whatever happens to be in the newspapers, whatever colourful reports there are, when colleagues get around the table, there's a common motivation to get to an outcome which is going to work for the people that we represent.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast.
With The Times. Be not just informed, but well informed.
Landlords, Direct Line guarantees to beat other insurers' renewal premiums for the same cover. Can your insurance do that? Switch to Direct Line Landlord. New customers only. Qualifying criteria apply. Underwritten by UK Insurance Limited.
Any room in the fridge freezer for some buds and ice cream?
There's always room in the fridge freezer for some buds and ice cream.
Pick up selected tubs of Ben & Jerry's ice cream for half price and 4 300ml bottles of Bud for just £4 at the Co-op. Participating stores. Ice cream now £2.49. Ends May 8th. Bud available while stocks last. Please drink responsibly.
It's in my hair, my eyebrows, it's even up my nose. They make painting look easy on the telly, but let me tell you, it's not. The wall looks like it's been finger painted by a giant child. Who's going to rescue this? Oh, relax. It's Trust a Trader. Actual professionals who know what they're doing and don't leave the place looking like, my face. Now I can concentrate on the important stuff. Whispering peach or dirty mayonnaise. Visit trustatrader.com.
Trustatrader.com. If you started your own furniture store today, I doubt you'd call it Fish Pools. But if the year was 1899 and your name was Ernest Fishpool, well, it was, and he did. Today, Fishpools in Waltham Cross is one of the largest furniture stores in the South East with a huge range of modern and classic styles. For up to 25% off and to view our new season furniture, flooring and home accessories, visit fishpools.co.uk. That's a website, Ernest.
So, tell us your name and what you do.
My name's Clive and I'm a hermit crab. Clive's the name, moving home is the game.
And as a hermit crab, do you like finding new places to live?
Oh yeah, before Zoopla, it used to do my shelling.
And it's better now?
Oh, with Zoopla, finding a new place is easy. And they help manage your move, too. From comparing mortgages to checking removals. They even help find broadband and telly packages. I never miss an episode of Celebrity Crab Island!
Well, that's certainly something to be proud of.
Find and move with Zoopla. Smarter about property.
John Williams, A Life in Music. Celebrating an epic career spanning over 60 years. A brand new album featuring new recordings of the world's greatest film themes. From Star Wars to Jurassic Park, Raiders of the Lost Ark, and more. John Williams, A Life in Music. Order now at amazon.co.uk.
Forget everything you know about musicals. Bat Out of Hell brings to life the legendary hits of Jim Steinman and Meatloaf. In this outrageous, nostalgic, wild child of a rock and roll musical. Now playing at London's Dominion Theatre. Book now at batoutofhellmusical.com.
This is LBC, live from Brussels, the Nigel Farage Show. Call 0345 6060 973. Text 84850. Tweet at LBC using the hashtag Farage on LBC.
And the breaking news from the House of Commons is that MPs have rejected a Labour motion which sought to force the government to disclose 8 years of internal documents and correspondence about the Windrush generation by 316 votes to 221. And I'm guessing that's going to be at least something of a sigh of relief for the Prime Minister in this very difficult week. To get comment, I'm going straight to Theo Usherwood, LBC's political editor. Theo, good evening.
Sigh of relief, Nigel, in Downing Street. You're quite right, because this was a real banana skin, this vote for the Prime Minister. Labour had tabled this motion for Theresa May to provide text messages, emails, any paperwork relating to the Windrush scandal. Of course, the aim for Labour was to try and expose fault lines and the problems with Mrs. May's insistence that everything was wrong when it came to handling the Windrush generation before, and that it was all there was a, if you like, they were trying to hide what she'd agreed to when she was Home Secretary, and so they asked for the disclosure of all these documents. And they did it through what's known as a humble address, which is usually reserved just for the Queen's speech. And the reason they did that was that when the vote came through, the result would be binding. And so the way the Theresa May reacted was, this afternoon, through Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary, was to promise to have an inquiry, to introduce legislation to safeguard the interests of the Windrush generation. But when it came to that inquiry, it would look into all the paperwork related to the Windrush. And that was enough, clearly, from the result here, where there's a majority of over 90 to assure Conservative.
It's a huge relief. It's a huge relief.
Yeah.
And the one piece of breaking news we haven't had, Theo, we appear to have heard nothing about the Brexit War Cabinet and what was actually discussed today. Lots of intrigue before as to whether the Defence Secretary, who had been a Remainer but was now sounding like a Leaver, and who was on what side. But from what I can make out, nothing's been said.
Absolutely, and the other person to look out for in this Brexit War Cabinet was Sajid Javid, the new Home Secretary. Of course, he was a Remainer during the campaign to the referendum campaign, loyal lieutenant of George Osborne's. Now, actually, everybody's talking up his leave credentials and the fact that he's,
I'm not.
reluctant Brexit.
No.
But the chat has been that he's a good thing for the Brexiteer, the Tory Eurosceptics really like him, and of course it's a crunch meeting because Theresa May needs to find a solution to the question of Northern Ireland. That's why the customs union is front and centre now. About what we do? Do we have a customs partnership versus what's known as maximum facilitation? That's favoured by like David Davis, Boris Johnson, Liam Fox, and indeed David Davis had threatened to resign if Mrs May went down the route of this so-called customs partnership. Basically, as Jacob Rees-Mogg said, the customs union, another name.
I have to say, I mean, Jacob Rees-Mogg has been remarkably well behaved, it seems to me, given what a hardline Eurosceptic he is, a great believer in Brexit. Do you think Jacob now does pose a threat to Theresa May on this?
I think the Tories and Jacob Rees-Mogg and his particular band of Tories are actually going to bide their time. I think there's a recognition at the moment that they can't topple Mrs May. Tomorrow's local election results are going to be very, very interesting because they're going to give Conservatives and, of course, Labour supporters alike a real sense of how well or not well Jeremy Corbyn is doing in the country. And certainly at the moment, at least, there does seem to be a feeling that Mrs May, the Conservatives, particularly could be vulnerable, and if there was to be a general election, and therefore I'm not sure there's going to be one. There's going to be any moves against her at the moment. But watch
it's a big day tomorrow, isn't it? Big day tomorrow. Yeah. Theo, thank you. Thank you for joining us and all that analysis. Back to my callers. Put yourself in a position. You were there in Downing Street today in that Brexit War Cabinet. You've got the House of Lords putting massive pressure on for us to stay as close as possible to the European Union. Rees-Mogg and 60 backbenchers saying, no, the referendum was clear. We're leaving the customs union. A Prime Minister in some difficulty. What would you have said to the Prime Minister? Greg in Southwark is calling, a new caller to the show. Good evening.
It's like Custer's last stand, isn't it? You know, you're going to fend them off. You're going to try and say, you know, it's an impossible task. You got, you know, if that's 60, of course we should. We voted for a Brexit deal, and it's been a dilly and dally for the past 2 years, and I just can't believe the incompetency of this government. These people are paid a lot of money to do a job, and they haven't been doing their job. I am personally on a lowly wage, and I work hard for my money, and I appreciate what I've got. But I just do not understand why this delay. The longer we delay, the worse it's going to get. We can't reboot until we have this sorted out.
And we're running out of time. We're running out of time, Greg, aren't we? I mean, old Barney is rubbing his hands because he's seeing the clock ticking, and we still, 2 years on, haven't fully decided what our position is.
Well, they're going to be dancing in Italy tonight when Roma win the European Cup. That's what, hopefully, you know, they're going to be all of Europe going to be celebrating against us, poor Liverpool. You know, but then again, I'm just joking.
And why do you predict that? Why do you predict that result with such certainty?
Because it's like us against the rest of Europe now. Because apart from there's a sort of like a 40%, 60% gauge of people that what we're doing. Those 45% are saying they're coming around. It will come to 50%, and then it will come to 50%. Although those European, the strong countries, I don't know about Germany, but France, Italy, Greece, Spain, they want their currency back. They want their own borders. They want to protect that. They want to protect.
Do you know what, Greg?
People.
Do you know what, Greg? Whatever happens with our government and Brexit, there's one thing that's happened since Brexit, and that is Eurosceptic opinion is on the march right across the whole of Europe. You're absolutely right about that. Greg, in a word, what would you have said to Theresa May today?
I shouldn't say it, but it's get your act together. Sorry, that's more than one word.
Okay, that's fine. Listen, Greg, I sense a growing frustration amongst you and many, many others, and I thank you, first-time caller, for taking part in this show this evening. Thanks. Well, I said to you a few minutes ago that the US media reports that Cambridge Analytica is closing down, and I want to get some reaction to that. I'm going to go to Matt Navarra, Director of Social Media for The Next Web. Matt, good evening.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening. Are you shocked, surprised, or not by this news?
I'm not surprised. I guess it was kind of in the pipeline. There's things going on still, I think, in London. We've still had issues with what's going to happen with Zuckerberg. Is he going to actually come to the UK and face the questions? And also this is all going on during the middle of a conference that Mark Zuckerberg wants everyone's attention on, which is a bit of a diversion. But
it's all happened in a very short space of time, really, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, there seems to be lots going on behind the scenes. I'm not too close to the story right at this moment, but from the last few weeks, what with the Congress hearings and all sorts of other things that's all creeping out and stuff, it seems there's more to the story. So clearly, someone somewhere is have more information than we do, and I guess they've shut it down. So I guess we'll see what happens whether they come to the UK and answer some questions as well.
Yeah, I mean, clearly, Cambridge have a UK operation as well. We've been told they're closing down in the States. I assume that includes the United Kingdom as well. A question, Matt, about these big companies that have made so much money, in data. I mean, presumably many other firms that have used Facebook as a means of earning their living, a means of selling on to clients information, presumably a lot of them are vulnerable now.
Well, it just depends how they've set up their businesses, I guess. If their business is based around things to do with Facebook in terms of data, and that's going to be massively impacted. So if it's a large part of their business, then this will have a knock-on effect on those as well. So it's not just about Facebook.
Yeah, no, it could well.
I think they'll be quite resilient.
Yeah, no, listen, this is a story that's not going away. Thank you for joining us for Reaction. That was Matt Navarra, Director of Social Media for The Next Web. He mentioned Mark Zuckerberg. I went to a meeting today with the President of the European Parliament and the other group leaders, and they are desperately trying to get Mark Zuckerberg to come and appear here before the European Parliament, just as are the House of Commons as well. Having looked at Zuckerberg testifying before Congress, he didn't seem to enjoy it very much. I don't see him coming to Westminster or Brussels any time soon. Back to the War Cabinet meeting, the divisions that exist within it. Jacob Rees-Mogg on the one side threatening, the House of Lords on the other side defeating, now 10 times in the space of the last week or so, the government. What would you, if you'd sat in that room, said to Theresa May? Andrew in Lincoln, what would you have said today to Theresa May?
Resign.
Resign?
Yes. She's completely gone against the mandate we gave her in the referendum, which were made absolutely clear. In fact, it was made so clear that I'd say that anybody who says we didn't know what we were voting for is a liar or a fool. And I don't think the ones who are objecting to it are liars, fools, so you can make your own mind up what I think of them. We should definitely believe in the customs union. It was, as I say, it was made abundantly clear to all of us, and the MPs led by May, who is taking the advice of an advisor above the Parliament. So
you feel, Andrew, that the tail's wagging the dog here, do you? You feel the tail's wagging the dog here with Ollie Robbins dictating what we should and shouldn't do?
We voted against these so-called experts, and they're there to take do and carry out the wishes of the Cabinet. They're not there to tell the Cabinet what to do. And May's taking the advice of one advisor above all Cabinet ministers and all the people in the country. She's a disgrace, is the woman.
Andrew, your point of view could not have been clearer. Thank you. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusive on LBC. It's now 7:31, and time for the news with Thomas Watts.
Labour has lost a Commons motion demanding the publication of internal government documents about the Windrush scandal. The Prime Minister's promised a review announced by the new Home Secretary will have full access to Home Office information. It's as the government suffered a 10th defeat in the House of Lords on key Brexit legislation. The amendment put forward by Lord Patten aims to prevent a hard border between the UK and Ireland and will now go back to the Commons. As many as 270 women may have had their lives shortened because of failings with NHS breast cancer screening in England. 450,000 women weren't brought in for their final screenings over the last 9 years because of a computer problem. LBC weather, showers moving to the northwest of Scotland, drying up elsewhere across England and Wales with long clear spells, but staying quite chilly, a low of 3 degrees.
LBC Travel. There are delays on the M25 anti-clockwise between junction 6 for Godstone and the Clackett Lane services. The inside lane is closed for emergency repair works after an accident. It is causing queues back onto the M25. In Langley, the A4 London Road is shut both ways on the approach to the Toby traffic lights. This is because of a serious accident. Queues back to Lakeside Road. And on the trains, there are delays of up to 30 minutes on South Western services between Richmond and Reading because of a trespasser on the tracks. LBC Travel, I'm Louise Gookie.
This is LBC.
Clive, what's doing Wolf? Whale music? You must be one stressed-out private landlord.
Yes, I am!
Your tenants are struggling financially and can't pay their rent. But you're with Direct Line. They'll repay any unpaid rent until your tenants are out. So drop the stress ball. It'll all be over soon. Ah, that's better.
Claim back unpaid rent after 1 month's arrears with rent guarantee. Can your insurance do that? Search Direct Line Landlord. Cover purchased as part of legal expenses add-on. Qualifying criteria apply. Restricted claims for existing tenants in the first 90 days when product first purchased.
There are many ways to see Tenerife. Its historic towns, architecture, volcanoes, or just mile on mile of beautiful beaches. But there's only one way to fly.
Fly British Airways from Gatwick to Tenerife from £299 per person for return flights and 7 nights accommodation. Availability and dates are extremely limited. ATOL protected. Conditions and booking fee may apply. For full details, cba.com/Gatwick.
Any room in the fridge freezer for some buds and ice cream?
There's always room in the fridge freezer for some buds and ice cream.
Pick up selected tubs of Ben & Jerry's ice cream for half price and 4 300ml bottles of Bud for just £4 at the Co-op. Participating stores. Ice cream now £2.49, ends May 8th. Bud available while stocks last. Please drink responsibly.
My house, my office, they're a mess. You need London Storage Vaults. Their self-storage units are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus, so they're completely safe. They're also climate controlled. so they're ideal for anything from paperwork to fine wines.
Sounds great.
They'll collect your stuff for free if you're in zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and all from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
We know how hard running your own business can be. We know about the endless tough decisions you have to make. Tough decisions about whether to expand. Tough decisions about the right people to hire. So here's an easy decision. If you're looking for a new van, the Volkswagen Caddy will cost you just £199 a month, with nothing to pay up front. Incredible offers to help your business thrive. Search Volkswagen Caddy to find out more. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles, working with you. No initial rental on contract hire. Excludes 20% VAT. Business users only. Until the 1st of July 2018. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicle Financial Services.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
Well, in the last half an hour, we've had a 10th defeat for the government in the last week or so in the House of Lords over the EU withdrawal bill. We've had a Labour motion in the House of Commons to get everything disclosed about Windrush defeated, and we've got the news that Cambridge Analytica are going out of business, all of which is exciting, and things are moving on. But one problem, we've not had enough time for you, the callers. So let's crack on. Let's go to Brendan in Kingston, a new caller to the show. Good evening, Brendan.
Good evening, Nigel. A couple of things. Firstly, I think on the House of Lords, I do feel that you're vilifying them and perhaps misleading the listeners. And why do I say that? Because their role is they actually have no final say on any amendments in this legislation. As you know better than most, I'm sure, they put proposals and it will be for Parliament, the House of Commons, to decide whether those go through or not. So the final decision isn't with them. These are just suggestions. And
well, yes, no. I have made clear, Brendan, to people, the Parliament Act of 1911 gave the Commons ultimately supremacy, yes, but they have been going against conventions that have existed for decades, that they don't oppose legislation that is part of governing parties' manifestos. They are not behaving well, Brendan, in my view.
Well, let's just remember, this is a government with no majority, yeah? It's relying on the DUP, and the convention in the House of Lords is very much based on implementing a manifesto that has been backed by a government that has a majority. It does not. And I heard you there, and it sounded like you would come on to the will of the people. Let's not forget, there is no will of the people support for Brexit, never mind leaving the customs union. 37% of the electorate voted to leave the European Union. So the majority of people...
In one of the highest turnout elections, Brendan, one of the highest turnout elections in modern times. When you think... we were down to lower than 60% in general elections not so long ago, and there was a 73% turnout in this. It was the greatest exercise numerically in democracy ever, Brendan.
Well, it may well have been, and the end result is just 37% of the electorate voted for Brexit. And comparing it to a general election, it is different. It's a referendum, so there is no majority.
So what is your suggestion? Give up on Brexit?
Well, I think you've got to clearly, when the referendum was held, the resounding result that came back from the people was, we don't know. There was a vast majority of people who basically said, when you add up, there was, 33% who wanted to stay in, 37% who wanted to leave. There was no majority either way. So there's clearly, and when you think about it, not a big surprise, there wasn't enough information to go on. Now more information is coming out. We saw in the referendum, and it's looking horrendous, the prospect of leaving.
Sorry?
Now, it's looking...
What's horrendous? What is horrendous about What is horrendous about freedom?
What do you mean by freedom?
The ability to run your own country, make your own laws, chart your own course in the world, and be the masters of your own destiny.
Well, okay, all right. You really think leaving the European Union is going to deliver that? Let's give a good example. Just recently, we've got a new Home Secretary who is... Have I had any say in that? I mean, who runs this government? Who runs the country is the government. I don't vote for the government. That's voted for by MPs. of the ruling party. I have no more control.
Brendan, Brendan, we could certainly say that our system's imperfect. And by the way, I would get rid of this House of Lords. I would have done it some time ago. You know, I think they're well past their sell-by date. I'd go for an elected Senate. I'd change the electoral system. I'd engage more people in politics. I'd get rid of this two-party dominance. There are lots of things, Brendan, I would like to do to reform the United Kingdom. But the point about Brexit is, at least it makes us a self-governing nation with the ability to do in the future whatever we want.
Firstly, when we say we, if you mean we, the ordinary people on the street, will make no difference. The marginal difference that Brexit will introduce to the person is about as much as changing the direction of a 747 by shifting a bum cheek. You will have no more additional powers in an individual. Now, there may be some people like the likes of Jacob Rees-Mogg who will have more power, and in his sort of world of sort of feudal societies or whatever, he would love to have that. But the ordinary person carrying on their business will have no more say in being in or outside the EU. Won't make a jot of difference to them.
I tell you what, Brendan, they will be doing in the future. People running businesses will vote in general elections for parties with manifestos that will directly affect their businesses. The last few decades, it's been irrelevant whether Labour or Tory get in, because most of the legislation's been made here. Brendan, if you'd been round that table today with Theresa May, given your pretty pessimistic view about Brexit, what would you have suggested the Prime Minister does right now, given that she is in something of a crisis?
Well, she's clearly incapable of making any decisions. But I do think if she has to listen to the excellent work that's been done by the various subcommittees who have looked in detail forensically at the implications of leaving the customs union and listened to businesses. I work for a large business, and I can tell you the vast majority are saying, look, we want to stay in this customs union. It's very beneficial for this country, and she should listen and be guided by that, rather than... Given,
Brendan, that we do more business... Given that we do more business with the rest of the world than the European Union, why would they be arguing we should stay inside the customs union when there is a bigger world out there?
You make the point for me, Nigel. We do more business with the rest of the world, and we're in the European Union. I mean, the second biggest exporter in the world is Germany. They're in the European Union, second only to China. They're bigger than the US in terms of exports.
Just think what our potential could be. Brendan, basically, all right, let's just cut to the chase with this. You think Brexit should be abandoned, yeah?
I think. Look, I do believe in democracy. 37% of the electorate did vote to leave. I don't think it's enough to make this decision.
Fair enough. Okay, it's an unusual argument, but you've made it, and you've had plenty of time to do so. Thank you very much indeed. Nigel, the House of Lords have betrayed the people and should be disbanded and replaced with an elected second chamber, says Jim in Orpington. Bob says the only people who may put a hard border up are the European Union. Well, that's a debate we're going to have a lot more of over the course of the next few weeks. Let's go to Eddie in Wokingham, another new caller to the show. Eddie, good evening.
Hi, Nigel. Sounds like Brendan's still in Remain HQ, wrapped in his EU flag.
Yeah, he just... Brendan doesn't like the result. He can't accept the result. And there are people, like that. My impression, Eddie, of talking to people in business and elsewhere is the one thing everyone says is, regardless how they voted in the referendum, can we please just get on with it?
Exactly. I think the important point, though, Nigel, that everybody is missing is the context. We've committed a national... incident of self-harm. May and Davis have a broken bat. Minority government. You've got Clegg and others going there undermining our position. You've got the House of Lords. The Europeans love this. They're going to ride a truck through the negotiation, thinking just hold the line. We're so split that we'll never get a good deal. You only get a good deal from a position of strength. And they know we're so divided, they're going to ride a coach and horses through it now.
So isn't it, given that we're weak, given the difficulties, given the parliamentary numbers, isn't this the time, Eddie, above all, for strong leadership and direction?
You would think so, but at the end of the day, he or she would be tied by the numbers in Parliament, and the country's divided, the cabinet's divided, Parliament's divided. We're in such a poor position, it's difficult to see how you can get a good deal out of this now.
Well, the one thing for certain with any negotiation, Eddie, is that unless they know you're prepared to walk away, you ain't getting a good deal. No, it's not easy. Thank you for your call. And more news on this. Cambridge Analytica, in a statement, the firm have said, over the past several months, Cambridge Analytica has been the subject of numerous unfounded accusations and, despite the company's efforts to correct the record, has been vilified for activities that are not only legal, but also widely accepted as a standard component of online advertising in both the political and commercial arenas. As a result, it has been determined that it is no longer viable to continue operating the business, which left Cambridge Analytica with no realistic alternative to placing the company into administration. Well, I have to say, the witch hunt around Cambridge Analytica has been extraordinary. Attempts to link them with Brexit, to link them with Trump. The truth is, they did not have a major role in Trump and almost no role at all in Brexit whatsoever. What they did do was pick up some very big contracts in Africa and other parts of the world for which they were handsomely rewarded. And you could say that in terms of their sales techniques and everything else, they were pretty full on in terms of the way they did things. But I was struck from the start. What have these people done wrong? And I think the answer is just about nothing. When it came to data mining, 50 million individuals' data that they got during the Trump campaign, Obama's campaigners got 200 million sets of data 4 years earlier. And I have to say, looks to me like a company that's been closed down by mob rule. I'm not sure that's all too healthy. You're listening to the Nigel Farage Show, exclusively on LBC. It's now 7:46.
Coming up at 8 on LBC, Clive Bull.
Labour is accusing the government of a cover-up after it refused to release all of the papers relating to Windrush cases. Should Theresa May be more open about this?
Clive Bull on LBC.
Wembley. You can't describe it. Experience it for yourself. Cheer on the Three Lions ahead of the FIFA World Cup in Russia. England v Nigeria, 5:15 p.m. Saturday, 2nd of June. thefa.com/tickets. Be there.
High quality kitchen you've dreamed of at a price well within your budget. That's Room Sense.
That's Room Sense.
This month, all kitchens are half price with a free oven hob and extractor. Book your free home design visit today at roomsense.co.uk.
Quality at a price you can afford. That's Room Sense.
Offer ends soon. Minimum spend applies.
If you want your hard-earned money to be secure and give you great returns, invest in Union Premier Bond. Just log in to www.unionpremierbond.co.uk and choose your investment duration from 1 to 5 years with great returns. With its effortless online application process, it is designed keeping your needs in mind. Union Premier Bond by Union Bank of India UK Limited. Good people to bank with. Union Bank of India UK Limited is authorised by the Prudential Regulation Authority and regulated by the Financial Conduct Authority and the Prudential Regulation Authority.
We know how hard running your fleet can be. We know about the endless tough decisions you have to make. Tough decisions about choosing suppliers. Tough decisions about how to expand. So here's an easy decision. If you're looking for a new van, the Volkswagen Crafter will cost you just £289 a month with nothing to pay up front. Incredible offers to help your business thrive. Search Volkswagen Crafter to find out more. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicles. Working with you. No initial rental on contract hire. Excludes 20% VAT. Business users only. Until the 1st of July 2018. T's and C's and exclusions apply. Volkswagen Commercial Vehicle Financial Services.
My house, my office, they're a mess. You need London Storage Vaults.
Their self-storage units are in an underground vault near Oxford Circus, so they're completely safe. They're also climate-controlled, so they're ideal for anything from paperwork to fine wines.
Sounds great.
They'll collect your stuff for free if you're in Zones 1 and 2. There's 24/7 access and all from just £10 a week.
London Storage Vaults, the future of self-storage. Visit londonstoragevaults.com. Terms and conditions apply.
So,
Selling your business doesn't have to be as stressful as running it. Break free. Sell the Hilton Smythe way. Visit thehsway.co.uk.
The Nigel Farage Show, live from Brussels, only on LBC.
Well, there we are. The War Cabinet met today, and we've heard no news. I'm asking you, if you were in there, what would you have said to a Prime Minister who's got Rees-Mogg on the one hand, the House of Lords on the other hand, and what is she to do? Are we to leave the customs union fully or enter a new customs partnership? And the reason, really, this is all being debated is because Mr. Barnier is making things very difficult over Ireland. There is to be no hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic, and that is becoming the sticking point of Brexit, which I think is what Monsieur Barnier intended right from the very start. I'm going to get Andy in Derry in Northern Ireland. Andy, hi.
Hi, Nigel. I just want to start by saying that I think probably obviously enough I voted Remain.
Yep.
But I would class myself as Democrat, and I fully accept that majority voted to leave, and I'm more than happy to go along with the majority. However, I am getting more and more concerned when I listen to LBC on a daily basis that I hear more and more English people calling up, and I understand they're frustrated, and they keep pushing more and more for May to just walk away from the table with no deal at all. And I grow more concerned that English people aren't thinking about the likes of myself and the thousands of other people that actually live on the border. And I'm
Andy, if
she's going to walk away.
If she did walk away, Andy, things would be difficult on that border for a period of time. But you know what? We'd work something out, wouldn't we?
But will we? I mean, the problem is that literally, constitutionally, my backyard's in the Republic of Ireland.
Yeah.
My rear yard is literally in the Republic of Ireland, and the front of my house is in Northern Ireland.
But Andy,
is that going to make my life a nightmare if I want to go for a pint of milk?
Well, I'm coming to Northern Ireland next Friday. Perhaps I come and give you a visit and have a look at that. And Andy, I mean, look, it is massively in the interests of the farmers and many others living in the Republic, for trade to continue with the North, as it is vice versa. I mean, nobody, Andy, you know this, nobody has proposed the return of a hard border, watchtowers, soldiers with machine guns. Nobody wants it.
Walks away, the European Union are just going to take that hard line and erect a hard border around it.
Well, I tell you what, if anyone's
answer to this question, because there's parts of roads where you cross under Northern and Republic of Ireland 7 times in the space of 10 miles.
Well, then you have to find a compromise. Andy, we've managed, over the last few years to reach all sorts of compromises. Hey, it's not easy. I'm going to move on to Michael in Bracknell, and you call into the show. Good evening, Michael.
Good evening, Nigel.
So, customs union, customs partnership, what do we do? What would you say to Mrs. May?
If I had been in the room with Mrs. May today, I would tell her that she's a great servant of the people, but that she has to stop listening to Ollie Robbins because he is a 6'3" Blairite stick of rock with Brussels running all the way up and down his giant frame. But she needs to let Davis do his job, which is what he's there to do, and that when we voted to leave, we were right to do so. And I think I would make it very clear to her that she has to say that to the people as well, that they were right. If she's going to do it, she has to talk the talk as well. And part of that is telling them what's going on in Europe right now. She has to explain to them about how the people in Greece are living thanks to the EU, that 97% of them are now anti-EU, that they're living on a voucher of €500 a month with a 300 voucher shopping for food shopping, and that in Germany, which you would think was being a European stronghold, that 48% of them currently, according to the latest poll, are anti the EU, with 79% of them being anti the immigration policy of the EU.
Yeah, it's growing everywhere, isn't it? Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, it is.
From that perspective, the EU, to me, seems like something which is essentially a sinking ship. And our choice is really whether or not we want to be lashed to the mast as it goes down or not.
Yeah. We want to be in a lifeboat, Michael, don't we? Absolutely. That's where I want to be, certainly. But this would require an act of genuine leadership. I would love her to stand up and say to Barnier, we will not be talked down to by an unelected Brussels official like you. You know, I'd love her to stand up and say this. I'd love her to tell the British people that had we voted Remain, we'd be part of something heading rapidly towards having its own army, insisting that all its new members join the euro. I'd love her to do this. But, Michael, does she have it within her to do it?
I wish she did, but I think that she's poorly advised, and I think she's one of those people who likes to keep her own counsel and not say those kind of speeches. And it's just.
But in the end, you know, I know, having led a political party through all sorts of good times and bad, it doesn't matter who's advising you. In the end, you're the leader. You've got to make those decisions, haven't you?
She does indeed, and unfortunately, though, I don't think those are the decisions she'd make. I think she needs to strut into Brussels and say what she wants and go for it, or just leave and walk away, because that is the other option.
Yep, no, I think you're right. Either step up to it, go for it, try and carry the country with you. I've always said, Michael, if she stood up and did something like this, if she carried the country with her, she'd find the parliamentary numbers improved as well. Michael, I thank you. Let's go to Martin in Glasgow. Martin, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nigel. Well, I'll tell you exactly what I would say to her at that meeting. Resign and get a backbone. You're a disgrace. I have never seen anything like this in my life. And for goodness sake, how MD can come on this station and defend that gravy train known as the EU beggars belief. And probably a lot of them are in the left wing as well. And I just find that unbelievable. I just cannot believe people support that thing. And really and truly, this has been dragging on for 2 years. And I want to know exactly what's been happening in that 2 years. They should be in there, the civil servants and the government, every day negotiating. All I hear is every so often, every 3 months, and I'm saying to myself, now wait a minute here, this is a serious situation. They should be in there. Now, I don't know what's going on behind the scenes, but it's quite obvious to me what we've been told with the press and so forth.
Well, all I can assure you from the gossip over here, you know, that I get in Brussels, nothing very exciting's going on, I promise you.
No, it's quite obvious. And she's a Remainer. She's dragging her feet. Your heart's not in it. It's like anything in life. If your heart's not in anything, and you say you have to go with something, you won't do it 100%. And most of that cabinet, by the way, are Remainers. And I'll tell you one thing, I voted Conservative up here the last time. I'll tell you right now, never again will I be voting Conservative. That is for definite.
You feel that strongly?
Oh, I feel very strongly.
No, you do. I can tell. You're not alone. Norma's got the solution. She says Southern Ireland, the Republic she means, should take the plunge and come out with us. Problem solved. I rather agree, Norma. And one day, do you know what? I think they will do that too. Sylvie says, Nigel, I agree. The MOG is behaving extremely well, considering the frustration he and the rest of the real Brexiteers in the House of Commons must be feeling. Peter says, we are blaming May and Labour and the Lords. No, none of this would be a problem if her own party towed the line. Well, Peter, none of this would be a problem if she hadn't held that general election. And on Twitter, I get, you must get so tired of those pessimistic callers wanting to capitulate to Brussels. Where is the entrepreneurial, positive and pioneering spirit? Well, do you know what? I was sitting on Eurostar this morning, reading the Financial Times, amongst others. I got to the letters page, a letter by David Miles, Professor of Financial Economics at Imperial College London. This was his letter. General Charles de Gaulle, reflecting from London on the nature of leaders of Britain in late 1940, wrote in his memoirs, whether they are members of the government, military leaders, high officials or personalities from Parliament, the press or the business world, all displayed a striking and imposing loyalty and assurance with regards to British interests. How often indeed have I savoured the humour with which, overworked though they were, they judged men and events in the midst of the drama which was sweeping us all about as the sea sweeps pebbles. But there was in each of them a devotion to the public service, and between all of them a community of aims which bound them together. The whole gave an impression of a cohesion among those in authority which I very often envied and admired. And that was what Charles de Gaulle said about British leaders in 1940. And just look at where we are. OK, we're not about to be invaded, but we are on the verge of making the biggest, peacetime change of our lives. And they're arguing like cats and dogs, and nobody is giving us genuine vision and leadership. You've been listening to The Nigel Farage Show here on LBC. I'm back tomorrow at 7. At 10 tonight, it's Ian Collins. But up next, it's Clive Bull.
Nigel, thank you. At 9 tonight, it's the Legal Hour, and Barrister Daniel Barnett from Outer Temple Chambers will be with me to answer your legal questions. And we'll also talk about defendants representing themselves in court. Also later, hundreds of women may have died because they didn't receive invitations to a final routine breast cancer screening. We'll have more on that. And first, Labour is accusing the government of a cover-up as it used a 3-line whip